Now time for this weekly edition of Turning Point.
Good evening, you're watching The Turning Point, and tonight on The Turning Point we have what I believe is one of the biggest turning points in our history, the internet.
I agree with you, especially since so many people can't go without it in their daily lives.
I agree.
It wasn't always like that, though.
Yeah, that's very true, very true.
I mean, when the internet first came out in the 1970s, people were rarely ever using it except for businesses and minor jobs.
I don't know how they lived, to be honest. That's crazy thinking of how it would be without that.
Like, even then, like, it was major businesses that had it. Like, it wasn't small, local, or...
It wasn't even until the 21st century that it really caught on in homes. It wasn't until 2000 when 50% of people had computers and 40% had the internet. I mean, that's really when the internet was a turning point in history. Do you think so?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, that's when everyone started having access, like more than just the big companies. Banks started using it, other stuff like that.
And like through that, different like social medias were created, such as AOL, and MySpace was created a couple years later, but it was still when everything started beginning.
The online businesses during this time created the .com era from where all these websites were created.
Mm-hmm. Just think AOL had 25 million subscribers when it first came out, and that was when internet just had first started.
Now, a lot of people are going to wonder why the internet didn't catch on until the 2000s, since it was created back in the 1970s.
I think it's because the dial-up was still there. I mean, it wasn't fast enough, and people weren't going to want to go play on the internet when it took so long.
Yeah, and not only that, but there was like so many more providers for people in the 2000s than there were when it just came out. Like 10,000 internet providers were there in the 2000s, and most of them were American and they weren't foreign, so people were more comfortable with doing American things.
Yeah, definitely.
With so many new service providers, people began to shop online, look at health information when they needed it, look at different stock markets, and even bank online as well, which most they weren't able to. You had to go in and do it in person, while now they could do it online.
People were wondering how long this was going to last, like if it would end up lasting a long time or just be a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, with all these new services created, people were getting jobs. There were so many jobs available, and they wanted to know if they were going to be able to keep them.
Yeah.
I mean, is this good or bad? People were wondering. I mean, still nowadays people wonder whether the internet is considered a good or a bad thing.
It definitely has its good parts and its bad parts.
That's very true for everyone. I think everyone would agree when you say that it's good and bad for a lot of different reasons.
I mean, especially in the 2000s, people were wondering. I mean, it wasn't portrayed as good all the time. People were going against it. People were saying, "Don't get the internet. Don't." I mean, it's lies. It's not good. I mean, it was portrayed in many different ways, and especially with the internet being new, the way you interpret things you see isn't always the same as the next person.
Mm-hmm. And especially as the internet has evolved to nowadays, with all the social media coming up, you have more ways to connect people, which is good, but it's also bad in a way about how cyberbullying has come up and how badly you can treat people without even talking to them face to face.
Definitely. Earlier we talked about how the internet helped you gain access to information that you couldn't before. This played a big role in education.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like back then you couldn't really do anything dealing with school online, but now people are able to start going to school online and not having to go to a actual school or college, or they were able to do everything online, and it's helped not only that type of education, but like with younger people being able to like get tutoring and help throughout all of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. For like research papers, you could just go online and find a credible website and get information from. There's a bunch of tutoring like websites, like games and stuff you can play to help you. There's just a bunch of different opportunities online for students to have.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to go to the library anymore to get information on anything. I mean, no longer do we need books or encyclopedias. You go to the internet and it has all of the information right in front of you, and it's very easily accessible.
Especially with so many schools having laptops in their classrooms or having a whole section just with computers, and that people could go and use and learn for themselves and not need someone there with them the whole time.
I think this is a turning point in itself, not for the internet, but for education. I mean, education itself was not as big as it was when the internet was created. I mean, people have more opportunities than they've ever had before because of the internet when it comes to education.
Just think of all the adults that have now graduated college online because they didn't have the opportunity to go to a real college, and now they have jobs from graduating, but they took the online classes to help them do that.
Yeah, I mean, adults are going back to school. Adults that never even thought about going to college, or adults that went to college and dropped out. I mean, they're going back. They're trying to get their education because they realize how important it is now, and the internet is really what changed that
and push so many people to further education and
Definitely.
just continue with everything that they're doing. Now, with all the changes with education, how has this affected just the everyday person? Like, what are they able to do now?
Yeah, I mean, the internet is giving people this incredible way to bond socially, not having to do it face to face or even over the telephone, but you can instant chat. I mean, you can see pictures of each other and not have to give them hand to hand. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy.
And you can also talk to people, like you can meet great new people from all the way on different sides of the world. Like you're in America, you can meet someone from Great Britain and become great friends with them just from talking over the internet.
Yeah, I mean, most calls, at least in the early 2000s, they couldn't go that far. I mean, long distance calling wasn't as easy as it is now. And people could instant chat, they could email. You could have your family members be all the way across the world and they can email you pictures, they can instant chat you. It's easy and it's convenient and it's a lot of help, and I think that's one of the things that really did affect the common person every day.
Because it connected everyone together when they weren't able to before.
Your views weren't limited to just what is where you live. You could see other parts of the world without having to go there.
Right. And not even just associating with people that you don't know, but you're more in contact with people as a whole. I mean, politics and trying to see what other people can see across the world or across the United States. I mean, you can really be more in contact with other people. I mean, politics have definitely been a huge change in history because of the internet. I mean, posts that are online about who's running for president, or you can see online the videos of things they've said. I mean,
shows you what exactly they believe in. You don't have to watch them on TV
or get someone else's opinion from it. You would get unbiased how they feel on a topic, and not have to go through either a news reporter who doesn't think the same way or family who doesn't either.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, that could go good or bad in the way we said before with interpreting things. I mean, things can be interpreted a different way, and someone that's running for president could say something that isn't meant to offend somebody, but then it does because people interpret things however they want, which could be a bad side effect of the internet.
Very true. Along with the politics, you also have war, and a big part of war used to be all the men would write letters home to their family. Well, now you can send an email and they can have it in less than a couple minutes. Like, it's amazing how you could keep in contact with your family during such a hard time, and it's easy.
Definitely. And not only contacting the family in the war, but news in itself. I mean, as Americans, people want to know what's going on with the war, and they can not have to wait for the news at 6 o'clock to come on or at 6 in the morning, but you can go on the internet any time of the day, and it's constantly being updated. You can see what's going on, and you don't have to wait.
Yeah, and not only with war, but any news topic, people are able to go on and see what has happened throughout the day and how it could affect them, and whether they should actually tune in to see the bigger picture that night.
Definitely.
And the weather, like even something as simple as that, you can go on the internet and check the weather real quick, and you don't have to wait for the news to come on to show you what the temperature is going to be like today or if it's going to rain or not. You can just have it at that quick.
And not only for the weather for today, but I mean, you can go on and get a 40-day weather.
You're going on vacation.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Look it
you
up.
can see what the weather's going to be like weeks from now. You can see what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Hourly forecast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy what you can do nowadays with
Overall, the internet has affected everybody, whether they know it or not.
With this, people have access to information that they never even thought was possible to have, and with it, so many people have learned things that you wouldn't learn in a school or by yourself years ago, and now they're able to because of the internet.
We consider the internet a turning point in history more towards the early 2000s, but especially in the year 2000, because that was when the internet services became available to everybody, not just big businesses.
I'd say internet's become a really big, important part of us.
Yeah.
I don't think we could even rewind and go without internet at this point, just because it's become such a big part of our daily lives.
Yep.
And there's so many people nowadays who don't know what it was like without the internet. And they wouldn't be able to probably work at all without it.
And that concludes our episode of The Turning Point on the Internet.
Tomorrow night's episode will be featuring the turning point of television.
See you next time on
The Turning Point.
Guys.